Hey, all right. Now on Zero Bug 30, we got Jay and we got Zach, the brains and the brawn behind Veteran with a Sign. You know it on Instagram, Veteran with a Sign. You've seen it floating around the military veteran community. And now we got these two to figure out where the heck did Veteran with a Sign come from. So Jay, Zach, welcome to Zero Bug 30.
Welcome. Hey. Thank you. Thanks for having us. Zach, get us started.
The pleasure's all mine. I've never been so happy to talk to a nobleman in all my life.
I'll take that as a compliment. So if you haven't already guessed,
you should.
Zach was enlisted. So why don't we start with hearing about each of your military service and how you came to be a part of the military. So we'll start with you, Zach.
Okay. In the year of our Lord, October 12th, 1980. I'm just kidding. I was, I'm from West Tennessee originally, in Memphis. I remember 9/11 when it happened. And I really wanted to serve my country. So
how old were you when 9/11 happened?
I was in middle school. I think I was in 8th grade.
So you're old enough that you could process what was going on.
Yeah, a little. I'll say a little bit. It's hard explaining it to my daughters who are they're both in middle school now. But the world then, to all of us who are all around the same age, was so much substantially smaller than the world is now. I was just a kid in Memphis, Tennessee, and like New York was just a place I saw on movies and TV and stuff. And information technology, all the changes that have happened have really kind of consolidated everything. So I remember being like, oh, that's something I wanted to do. I serve my country, and I also want to go to college. Cut to, I enlisted. Over the course of the next 4 years, I would deploy twice to Afghanistan, where Jay and I served in the same platoon and even the same squad.
And I'm sorry, what branch?
The Marine Corps.
Okay.
I was unaware there were others until recently. It's all right. It's not your fault. Your parents loved you. And I joined the Marines. The Army at that time was making it rain 30 grand a pop for enlisted guys, but they their door wasn't open that day. So I went to the Marines. That's where we served.
I got you. And I mean, that's just interesting because I think if you're in 8th grade when 9/11 happens, I don't think anyone would have anticipated that by the time you were old enough to join that we'd still be fighting in conflicts. So it's just kind of crazy that it worked out that way. And Jay, what about you? How'd you end up in the Marine Corps?
My dad was a Marine. Excuse me. My dad was a Marine. His brother was a Marine. My mom's stepdad was a soldier in the end of World War II. So it's kind of a little bit of family thing, and also 9/11. And I just had a child right before I joined, and I needed to do a course correction on my life, and Marine Corps helped me with that. Like Zach, I just graduated college earlier this year. So I mean, it was really just a path of self-improvement and a little bit of like a higher calling to duty or something like that. That I really want to go fight the war. I remember seeing the videos of the invasion of Iraq, of Fallujah, of the bombing raids, the shock and awe missions in Afghanistan. And I just remember thinking like, man, I really want to go do that. So I did.
No, that's interesting. So would you say it was more that calling, or do you think if you hadn't needed that course correction that you still would have ended up in the military, specifically in the Marines?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think my son had a lot to do with it, because I wanted to do something honorable, and I wasn't involved in anything of that sort at the time. So it was the best of my options at the time, and I don't regret it at all. So I mean, whether or not I would have done it regardless, I don't know. I wanted to. I remember going to California once with my dad to visit some friends. I think I was like 14. We went to a boot camp graduation on MCRD San Diego. And I just remember seeing all these, I mean, now I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, a bunch of boots, But at the time, I just remember having this reverence for Marines and everything Marine culture. I just started reading Helmet for My Pillow and started exploring that whole military. I mean, I guess at that time you could almost call it a fetish. So it's just interesting.
Yeah, no, I always say, I think 50 years from now, when I look back on this time of my life, I cannot imagine knowing what the world went through and having not served. And that's just my personal feeling. I don't know if you guys, it seems like maybe you might think the same thing.
Yeah, I do remember this like palatable feeling of like, what if I miss it? That was a big thing. Just this idea of service to a country. You know, and the World War II generation, I mean, they're called the greatest generation for like several reasons. I mean, they won the war, but for me, when I look at it like objectively, I think one of the things that I hold in the highest regard is like this group of men and women and this entire world like literally came together to fight like the greater evil, and that was what propelled them to want to chase a level of greatness that had prior to had not existed, right? Because objectively, in the 40s and the 50s, being like, hey, see that big rock in the sky? I want to go touch it, right? So like, and they did that, and they made this family, and people wanted to come home and propel technologies and industries to this the highest levels of capitalism they've ever been. And I like the idea that everyone came together for a common goal and community, and was able to do what was necessary regardless of the cost. And I think that's one of the things that makes America great is we've seen that play out through history time and time again, where we come together and we accept the call. And I want to be a part of that, especially since our generation is the first all volunteer fighting force of any. And that's legit. Like that doesn't discredit anything prior to. Obviously things were smaller, blah, blah, blah. But like the fact that everyone was like, yeah, I'll go, and that's what's so interesting now, seeing people doing recruiting, like, in 2005 to 10, you hear stories of recruiters then were like, it was cake years. They had to shut their doors. Now they're doing TikTok dances and everything else just to get kids to come in there and be like, hey, can you spell pull up? Kinda. Right. All right, come on.
Right.
We'll put you in.
I mean, so often you talk to any folks from our generation with any branch, and almost to a person, 9/11 gets brought up in some form or fashion that influenced them in one way or another. I don't think I've ever met someone in our generation who served in the military who said, I don't know, it seemed like it just would be fun, because as we all know. So, but speaking of fun, you two devil dogs, what was your first impression of each other when you met the other guy out in your unit? Jay?
Oh man, I gotta be honest with you. I don't even remember meeting Zach. I just remember like him being there one day and like, it's like, all right, cool. It's one of those things where you're just meeting so many people that it's like, I know I met him. I'm like, and then trying to pinpoint like a first memory type thing. There's so many of them that just kind of like all blur together. So I honestly can't answer that question. I don't know.
What about you, Zach?
I need to take a moment to let my hurt subside. To have been so unmemorable.
You just didn't do anything profound. You just were. That's
a version. That's a version of a story.
There was so much going on, though. There's so much going on when you're super boot getting screamed at by lance corporals and sergeants alike.
We were bottom of the barrel. We were bottom in the barrel, and I was in a different platoon all during the workup, and we had a reorganization. Right, we got to Kandahar for our first tour, and the platoon that I wound up in, second platoon, it was legendary for being so much better than the one I was in, and everything was. And I remember I thought it was a prank when they told me I was moving over. And then when it happened, like I just showed up and I was like a puppy that'd been in the pound, and I'd met people that wanted to give me love for the first time.
What was better about it? The living conditions, the way people treated you?
Okay, I'll get into it. I just don't want to use names.
No, go ahead. Drop government names. We don't care. Go ahead. Whatever you're
comfortable with. Yeah, you guys aren't that big. It's just all right, so I had this platoon sergeant. It was 3rd platoon, and he was legendary. He was legendary for the things that he would like. He would address people that weren't in his platoon. He'd there's many legends about him, but let's just say he was on the drill field for a little while, and then he wasn't on the drill field. You feel me? So, and he still thought he was in the drill field when we were all boots, and it was the worst. It was like being Cool Hand Luke, you know, like 24/7. You can do no right. And then, you know, you line up in company formations, you see the other platoons, they're like laughing and they're enjoying each other. And you just like look over there like longingly. And I'll put it this way. It was so bad that when I moved my cot, like out of my 3rd platoon tent into 2nd platoon, all my 3rd platoon friends like could not look at me. They're like, really?
Oh,
Because it was,
I do remember that.
He had to come help me. It was that level of like, all right, then I guess you're out.
Yeah, you're leaving us.
You're leaving us, huh?
Us. Yeah.
And people be like, oh, everything good happens to you. And I was like, I don't know.
Well,
Like,
so
they didn't really want to be there either. They just had like a Stockholm syndrome. You
Yeah.
know, they're like, oh, I'm stuck in 3rd platoon. So like,
Yeah,
you know,
I was
every other
Andy
platoon
Dufresne.
can eat it.
yeah, but so they were like kind of, you know, bound together in their misery.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then I went
Trauma
to like
bonding for
a whole
trauma bonding for sure.
It was trauma bonding. And it was a whole, like my career went from like this to just like that. And it was a lot. It was a lot. So I remember Jay, I thought the sun was rising, but it was actually just him peering through the tent with his angelic smile. And I don't know, it all seemed weird to me. It was weird that like we had met before because you're like always on working parties and stuff. But
Yeah.
3rd platoon especially, like we weren't even allowed to interact with other platoons. Like we were just in a bad relationship that we were trying to tell ourselves was love. Yeah, it was rough.
So you got into a new good relationship, and then were you guys best buds or your battle buddies? And
Yeah.
it was right away.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, I would say so. Because our platoon lived out on our first tour. We lived out in a patrol base pretty much the whole time. And it was only our platoon about half the time. It was just our platoon and a sniper attachment. So like we saw each other every day, multiple hours a day, always doing the same thing, you know, and that was how we developed. That's how we came to know each other, you know. And
just
and
kind of
for me,
naturally.
Yeah. I mean, all I knew about Chicago at that point was it was where Home Alone was shot.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was like, they just leave kids there and like the Chicago Bulls. And
Okay.
yeah, pretty
that
much.
was that was where I put
Okay.
it.
So you both, when did you both leave the Marine Corps?
I went on terminal leave November of 2010, finally EAS'd in January of 2011.
Okay. And what about you, Zach?
It was either late November, early December 2010, and then February 2011.
Okay. So right around 2011, you're both done with the Marine Corps. Presumably, you both got jobs in the civilian world doing a variety of different things, maybe one thing. But then when did you just wake up one morning and say, you know what the world needs? And another Instagram account, and that's what we're going to do. Like, tell me, where did Veteran with a Sign? Like, I think I knew of Guy with a Sign, and that was kind of a thing. But then all of a sudden, you guys popped up, and I noticed you in the military and the veteran space. So what was the genesis for your parody account?
I'm trying to think. There's a lot. I went to school. I got my bachelor's and I got my master's, and then I worked in a nonprofit and for-profit healthcare a lot.
Okay.
And that's what's big in Nashville. At the time of the pandemic, I was home with my family who just walked in, and I had noticed the dude with the sign thing, which I don't want to use bad language, but it's the name of the company. Can we use foul language?
Sure, go ahead.
The name of the company that runs it is Fuck Jerry, right?
Right. Yes.
They're the ones that do that. And so a side note is I always find it fun when there's like this comparison. I'm like, that's a multimedia like they control like the ups and downs of the internet, like a small sports company called Barstool. And I was just like, well, you know, people treat the internet kind of like a Sports Center top 10, where it's like, if you were to just watch the top 10 plays every day, you'd be like, dude, people are really good at sports, but like you wouldn't see like the up and down of it. And so I was like, what if I just removed all transparency to try and create conversation? And so I went in March of 2020 to go get a haircut. And I asked my barber, I asked her to take a picture of me. And it said something like, drink water, take Motrin, and change your socks. And she was like, okay. And then I just held it up right outside, and I was like, that was it. That was it.
Okay.
And then I kept doing it, and I just kept doing it. And people weren't getting it. They were very, very concerned with my outfit, which is understandable. But the idea was that I had to create a character, right? So the warfighter person is a character that anyone can be. So for me, it was like an OD green skivvy shirt, a hat, some sunglasses, and some shorts, which is literally my PT uniform that I still like work out in. I had a bunch of them when I got out, so I just kept it that way. You know, for like $10, you get 4 or 5 shirts, and you're set for like a year, and you just throw away the old ones. And you know, Jay and I had always kept in touch, but he had said, "Oh, this is really funny," and I was like, "Cool, you're like one that think that."
Jay, were you just being nice because you felt bad for him, like when you saved him from 3rd Platoon?
No, I saw it and I was
being nice. Yeah.
No, I saw it and I was I was already aware of Dude with Sign. So I was like, oh man, this is funny. There's something here. There's you know, because the first thing, right? Like anytime you go see a corpsman, it's always drink water, change, take Motrin, change your socks. I know it's the same in the Army, it's the same in the Air Force, it's the same in the Navy. But like, I was like, wow, this one thing is so relatable to everybody. There's something here. And then he brings up this idea of trying to start conversations and things like that. And I just wanted to help him grow the page. Honestly, I didn't even know that I was going to be involved with it at that point. And then he asked me to be a part of it. And I was like, okay, sure, let's do this. Let's try and figure out how far we can take this thing.
Okay. And I mean, obviously, you know, you have a pretty strong following now on social media, on Instagram. I think your page is hilarious, especially that one time that guy was holding up the sign that said officers are people too. I especially like that post that day. So what's the trajectory now for Veteran with a Sign? What do you hope to do in your personal lives, and what do you hope for the page, and what do you hope for with the page in regards to the veteran community?
Well, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that was a highly popular post. Like that was incredible. I remember when I was like, hey, will you do this? And you're like, yeah, sure. And so it's funny because like we schedule as much content as we can about a month out, honestly, because it's just easier. I mean, you know, and I'm always fascinated by what does really well and what does. I mean, they all do good. They all do really good. But like that one, I was like, it like blew the lid off, and you know, it helped to create like this larger amount of I don't know. I hate to use the word influence, but influence in like a different way.
It's influence.
Well, but it's influence in like a different way. So like my worst fear is that it would always be like focused on me, right? Because then it pulls away from the focus. The focus I'm trying to put it on is that every individual has different experiences in their life, military or otherwise, that everyone can learn from. And ultimately, where a lot of people get lost, and I know this is from working in the nonprofit veteran world, is that for too long, the military, military veterans in particular, have kind of monopolized this idea of like trauma and PTSD, like that we're the only owners of it. When the reality is it's something that we can use to bridge this military civilian divide, right? And so like if I could create something like that, right, to where we're all kind of talking like officers are people too, like it's a very hard responsibility. Did a lot of credible things. Like, a congressman had to look at like what you've done all your life and be like, yeah, I recommend this guy for this school, right? For West Point, right? No one ever said that to me, right? Ever. Like, I barely know what a congressman is. So the fact you did that, it helps to highlight that everyone could be a part of this community. And, ultimately, like if you look at like the grid post, it's supposed to be like a little bit of, snarky, to quipping a little bit, to doing things like we had a post recently, and it said you don't have to be a veteran.
Yep.
To help veterans, you just have to care, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's ultimately like what it is. Like I want to use that as like a good base to develop on, to where everyone's allowed to be a part of the conversation, to where we can help people be more open and honest about their experiences to get the help and things they need.
Yeah, I think it's great what you do with kind of almost make yourself anonymous with the sunglasses, with the hat. So you kind of could be an everyday veteran, but then also you've done a good job bringing in other veterans of all different walks of life and all different branches to kind of just highlight the diversity from the military. So Jay, where do you see the future of Veteran with a Sign? Do you just want to just continue to grow on Instagram and just see how big you can get, or do you have a higher goal in mind when it comes to the brand?
I mean, I think we both want to continue to grow on Instagram. We've got a Facebook, we've got a Twitter that we're trying to figure out. We're trying to build on to make appearances on other platforms, exploring those possibilities. But it's really just become a way to help others, right? And it's also become a way where now we're able to provide for our families doing this as well. So I mean, Zach's the one with the big ideas, and I wish I could take more credit for that, but it's mostly his planning. And he goes, "Is this all right?" And I'm like, "I don't like this." He goes, "All right, cool." Then he'll come back, "Is this all right?" I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "All right, cool." Sometimes he just goes, "Is this all right?" I'm like, "Yep."
Good stuff.
It works out.
Do you want to expound on that at all, Zach, in terms of the direction that the page might go in the brand?
Yeah, I mean, there's a really big page called Faces of New York.
Yeah, I know it.
And so, yeah, of course, I was gonna say, that's kind of the direction I feel like it could go in. Like ultimately, it's just people's faces and they're telling a story. And like, I'd like to get to a point where there's significantly less of me and Jay, in particular. And my worst fear is like doing it like way too long. But I don't think I know it won't happen. Me and Jay just won't allow it.
Yeah. And I guess there's no shortage of material. So how is it that you both come up with what's on the signs? I know obviously when you have guests, you told me just put whatever you want. You didn't give me any real direction. You just said, "Hey, can you make a sign and do the picture?" So when you're making the signs, you and Jay, how is it that you come up with what you're going to put?
It starts, so nostalgia is a really powerful tool. So we try and start there, working with like language and nomenclature and different things like that. That's I'm fascinated by like the way we say things in the military isn't the way they're spelled. That's a big one. And so we those are like little areas we start on, but like a general premise, right, is one that I probably have my like greatest focus on, is how we're different after the military, and not like ways like I got to face the door and stuff like that. All that stuff's different. It's just like, things that you wouldn't think would happen, like not being able to walk on grass and stuff. Like if you look at me, me or you or Jay or anybody, Chaps and Kate, like we all look like we don't really understand how grass works. Cause like I was at this rec center by our house. And like, I was just like doing this like 90-degree movement when like the direct path was right there. And it was like worn down because normal people who aren't institutionalized know how to walk on grass. Right. And so like, it's just little things like that. Cause like, I feel like if we can trigger nostalgia and conversation, that it triggers conversation and people talking, because it is weird. Or Like,
No, but we have our nuance within our community, and as
yeah.
you said, the nostalgia. So, but Jay, how do you come up with? Did you just try to build off the sign when you're talking about the more the copy and the content?
It's interesting because like sometimes I'll see movies or something and it's like, oh, okay, I remember that thing happening or something similar happening, or like Zach said, it'll be like how we're different after combat, um, or not even combat, just your service in general, right? Like avoiding trash in the streets. Like any GWAT veteran will like walk around just like Zach was talking about with the grass. You know, it's just those little idiosyncrasies that we all have that
The quirks,
that we can all that we can all relate to.
Yeah,
you know?
and it's
And then
crazy how pretty much across all branches too, except for probably the Air Force. But other than
Right.
that, we
yeah.
can
Well,
all
I
kind of
mean,
relate.
they make sure that they're getting paid from the like staying at the Days Inn or something, you know, like one of
Yes.
those 1-2
Yes.
star hotels.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
yeah, man, it's cool being able to find things that are relatable, because I mean sometimes we have signs where like, oh dude, this is a great joke and it'll bomb, but then we get some of them where they're super simple and it's just something that's so large scale that it reaches tons of people, and it's great because it expands that audience, but it also kind of draws them back in, which towards that mental health message, mental like self-care, self-awareness kind of message that we do try and push. I mean, we're like whatever the step below heavy-handed is, I think we're right there with that message. But I think it's important to get out there in a positive way where we're not like playing victims, and you know, we're not feeling a negative way about the pain and whatever it is that we're going through, but we're able to bring this whole conversation back to something constructive, like, hey, go get help, go see these people, talk to your friends, send a text message, make a phone call, whatever, you know, things like that, forming that community that Zach was talking about earlier.
Yeah. It's wild though too, because you put a post on Instagram and you can see the likes, but you can't really, and you can look at the impressions, but you can't really fully grasp, in my opinion, the amount of people that you're touching. So I think the fact that you two are focused on having that positive impact, you're certainly accomplishing that. You are having a very positive impact in the veteran community. And another thing, whether you realize it or not, is you're a great example to veterans transitioning out of the military that says, you don't have to take a traditional route. You can go into something else. You don't have to go work a 9-to-5 job and find something that veterans have worked in since forever, because you have this military service. So it translates here. So I think that's very, very cool that you're doing that. So I'll just I'll leave you with this last question. I want to hear from both of you. Who is your white whale? You want to see this person holding a sign on the page at some point. Can be a veteran, can be a civilian, whomever, but somebody you'd like to see holding a sign on Veteran with a Sign.
This is a good one. This is a good
Stumped
one.
you. Stumped you.
My personal would be Randy Couture,
Okay.
Army veteran, former UFC light heavyweight champ. You know, I would love to see him hold one. Just because I've been a lifelong martial artist. I've been fighting MMA for years. So like he's kind of I mean, and he's that era when I first got into MMA that
Yeah, he's an
you know,
OG.
he's kind of a role model. Not to mention his nickname was Captain America. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Couture's a good one. He does a lot of work still now with the veteran community. So I think that's certainly attainable from my perspective. And what about you, Zach?
I mean, it's I mean, you were one of them. Kate was one of them. Chap's one of them. No, I was like, and you did it. So I can't stress it that we did so perfectly. Your outfit, then your vines. I mean, looked like you just rolled out of a New England weekly magazine. It was incredible. No, Tulsi Gabbard was a big one. She's incredible. Sergeant Major of the Army was incredible. But the white whale right now, veteran one, is Adam Driver. Like,
Okay.
I want Adam. I want Kylo Ren. We've reached out to some people in his network, but
Mhm.
respect to him, he lives like Bill Murray. Like he has like one person he talks to, that's it, and he does his
Yeah.
job. But I
Yeah.
think it would be incredible to get Darth Vader's grandson to
Yeah.
do it.
Well, Adam Driver's a huge ZBT listener. We know that. So he'll probably hear this and reach out to you. So don't be surprised when that happens.
I will call you the second it happens. I'll be like, dude, they're reshooting Star Wars. They found a scene with cardboard. No, that's it. Because ultimately, I think when those things happen, right? So with Sergeant Major, with Tulsi, what I took away from it, it's not an internet thing, but for me, it was like, wow, these people are really involved with the message, and I felt very special with anyone who wants to be involved with it, because ultimately we're just trying to reach and impact people, know that it's okay to be different after service, and the only way we can keep moving forward is together. So
it's a great message, a fantastic message for current active duty, for veterans. So Jay, Zach, I appreciate your time. I appreciate what you're doing. Everybody go check out Veteran with a Sign. Stop what you're doing right now. Hit pause, go pull up Instagram, check out Veteran with a Sign. Throw a like to that one post with that officer guy. But no, Jay, Zach, thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and I love what you're doing, and keep up the great work.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
thank you.